Welcome to Coffee with the Sarlos. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Karen.
We are a mother-daughter duo of mediums, medical intuitives, psychics, and energy healers offering personal sessions to clients all over the world. And this is our podcast.
Coffee with the Sarlos is a platform to share the remarkable experiences of our clients and the messages that are channeled for them from the spirit world. These stories will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some are certain to be an absolute butt-kicking with love.
Our intent for this podcast is to gently and kindly challenge your belief systems, grow your empathy, and help you find pieces of your own self in each one of these individuals' stories. Karen, before we get into today's show, let's start things off with show notes.
Yes, Kelly and I have personal practices channeling for local and international clients. If the stories in these shows is something you'd like to experience, you can request your own personal session through our website bysarlo.com or email us at info@bysarlo.com.
We also have gift certificates available if you wish to gift this experience to someone anywhere in the world.
We have a second podcast series called Sips of Sanity. This series is your emotional and intuitive intelligence toolkit. We pick one topic every month and provide you with healthy tools for critical thinking and communication. This series airs the first week of every month. The first show in every series is free and can be found on our website, your favorite podcast platform, or YouTube. The remaining 4 shows can be found at patreon.com/bysarlo.
Patreon is our membership portal with a ton of monthly benefits for those of you seeking to grow your emotional and intuitive intelligence. Karen has a personal blog that explores the beauty and importance of intuitive gifts. There is a question and answer segment that addresses listeners' questions. As we mentioned, you can find the complete Sips of Sanity series here, along with handy habit trackers and great reflective questions to help you get the most from the shows. We provide you with guided journeys and music to enrich that experience, and we're running an emotionally intelligent, interactive book club. And for patrons in our top tier, each month we're putting your names into a draw for a free half-hour channeling session with Karen or myself. If you're interested in joining us, head over to patreon.com/bysarlo. Now, on to today's show. What are we doing today, Karen?
I have 2 client stories today.
Okay.
One a little bit longer than the other. One's very brief. It's like an update. I got an update for something, so I'm just going to sneak that one in at the very end.
Okay.
So our first story is about a female client. So would you like to name her?
Sure. I will go with Aleah.
So Aleah has a half-hour session, and we can see each other over technology. And she begins the session after we go through consent and asks me if I could possibly help her identify or find her father. And she words it in that kind of a way. It's pretty general. And I just said to her, well, let's see what we can do. I can't promise you anything. And I said, I'll just ask the spirit guides what they'd like to share with you today. So when I turned to the spirit guides, they said, first of all, we'd like you to meet her mom. And I'm like, oh, okay. I was surprised. And they said, there's a whole family situation going on and you need to meet the family. Kelly, that's so confusing. So I said, okay, I'm going to trust you guys. You must be doing all of this for some kind of purpose. So they said, well, her mom's going to come in at one point. We're going to introduce you to her. We're going to start with answering the question. And we'd like you to meet her uncle. And so I sat there and I thought, you're introducing me to her dad and it's her uncle? And they said, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I turned to her and I said, does this mean that no matter who your dad is biologically, you want to know? I said, or are there some boundaries around this? Nope, she says, I want to know no matter what. And she says, I have a little bit of information. She says, I think I can validate some things for you. And I thought, okay, that's confusing too. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I understand I'm putting you in an awkward situation. She says, and I'm not doing it to test you. Mm-hmm. She says, I am truly trying to figure some things out in my life. And I'm older, and it's just time for the truth. She says, I'm not 20, which is clear from seeing her. Mm-hmm. She's clearly like, I would say 65-ish, maybe 70. And she says, it's just time for everything to just give me some peace. And I'm starting to get stressed out with my other family members that are really bringing this up and won't let it go. Mm-hmm. She says, so I've got some anxiety around it now. I'm starting to feel like I've got some depression around this issue. She says, and I've believed certain things all my life, and now they're telling me they're not true. And people are starting to treat me differently because of this. She goes, I need for you to tell me anything and everything that the guides are willing to share with me. And then I'll affirm for you the little bits that I can. And I said, okay. So then I said to the spirit guides, so you're saying that her father is her uncle. So I understand this. May I meet him? You said I could. So could I get personality? Could he come through? And they said, absolutely, he can come through. He would like to. So you've confirmed with her that she's saying yes. So you go right ahead. And so I turned to Aleah. Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. I turned to Aleah and I said, I'm going to ask for more character and some information for you. And she goes, that would be appreciated.
Can I interject with a question? Mm-hmm. Am I also to understand that you are channeling someone who has passed?
Well, this is what came
okay,
through.
Never mind. Back to you.
You're asking a great question. And I'm trying to be really good in telling this story because it is confusing for her. It is confusing for me. And even the way that the guides presented things over this half hour, things kind of unfolded. And I don't know that I'm really going to do it justice by recounting the story because it's difficult, as you know, without the memory and with her trying to recount it to help me. Because by the time I contacted her afterwards to ask her, she had not recorded it or written it down. And she was trying to tell me exactly how the session went too. And we were trying to go back and forth and say what order the information came in. Oh. This was complicated, and it's complicated to retell it.
Oh, well, and thank you to Aleah, I know it's not your real name, for the permission to share it. Mm-hmm. And the effort that you put in to have it all come together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I think it's so important. So her uncle came in, and he comes in, but behind him walk in a group of other men with him. And I'm looking and I go, and they make themselves on the same level. I know you get this. When they make themselves on the same level, It means brothers. Mm-hmm. And so I see a group of men come in that are with him, but are brothers. And it's like, oh my God. This is getting more complicated instead of easier. Mm-hmm. And then I see another gentleman come in who's older than them, and this is their father. So now I have a bigger group, and it's more complicated than it is easy. So I said, okay, can you guys explain to me what's going on? And they said, yes, this brother is her father. And so I said, could you step forward? So he steps out of the group, and I see as he moves towards me, Kelly, that he has tremendous disabilities. Not all physical, mental. Mm-hmm. So as I talk to him, I say, are you going to give me your name? He goes, I don't need to. I've identified myself amongst my brothers. And I'm like, oh, so this is significant. And he goes, yes.
Meaning the other ones don't have the disabilities?
Yes.
Okay.
And I went, oh my God, I think I understand what you're doing, but I'm not sure. So let me ask Aleah. So I said, Aleah, I'm being told that you have a whole group of uncles. There were like 7 men on the other side, aside from the grandfather, their father. I said, there's a group of about 7 men that have passed. They're all saying that they're your uncles. And this is a big family. This is just the guys. This isn't even all the girls. And she goes, that's correct. And I said, they're telling me that they still have a sibling that's still on Earth, one, but that all the boys are on the other side. So the sibling on Earth is female. And she goes, that's right. I have one aunt left. And I said, your biological father is one of your uncles. And I said, but he stands out amongst all the other uncles by identifying himself that he is disabled. And it's not physical disabled, it's mental. And she said, I know exactly who he is. So I'm like, oh my God, thank God that the spirit guides decided to show it this way. Mm-hmm. So she just sat there, she looked at me and she went, okay. She goes, now, can you tell me anything else? And I said, yes, but can I? I don't really know. So I turned back to the spirit guides and I said, what do you want to tell me? And her uncle steps forward and says, I am her father. She knows it's in the family. She knows this. And I'm like, oh, so she's gonna validate that eventually. Yes, she is. And he says, but what I want you to understand is that...
Oh my God, I'm sick to my stomach. Can we...
Yep,
okay.
Is that I did not rape my sister.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
And I'm like, oh, right. He goes, could you get that out right away, please? Because, like, she's distressed. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. And I don't know why my mind did not go to that. Honest to God, Kelly, I don't know why my mind did not go there. I was trying so hard to be methodical and not screw this up.
But I think that's normal when you're the practitioner. I think had I been in this situation channeling too, you just approach the guides with more questions and wait for whatever they're going to offer you. You don't surmise, assume, interpret anything because it's just not your job. And that would actually interfere with the job itself.
Yes.
I'm a listener today, so that's where my female brain goes.
Yeah.
And I want to specify too, my female brain goes there. I label it in terms of a gender because that's also my experience physically with my parts. Mm-hmm. And that's the fear or the baggage that comes along with being female in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anatomically.
Right. So he said, I did not rape my sister. I loved my sister. And I didn't have the capability on Earth to understand or separate any of this. He said, so I said, well, wait a minute. I said, so she was obliging? Like, what? And because I can't wrap my head around that. And then he goes, well, meet my sister. So his sister steps forward, her mother, and she is mentally challenged.
Oh. Okay.
They are, I want to say, like twins. Mm-hmm. They're not biological twins. They are not the same age. They are not. They are a few years apart. You can see that part. But she has the same mental challenges that he does. Mm-hmm. And so she steps forward and she says, hi, this is who I was when I was on Earth.
So Mom has passed?
Yes.
Okay.
So then I'm like, okay, I've got rock solid information here. Her uncle's passed. There's a group of uncles passed. There's a grandfather passed. Her mother's passed. Her mother's disabled. Her uncle's disabled. The other uncles are not. Okay, that's all fact. So I said to Aleah, I have quite a bit of information here, and it's all factual. So I said, I'm going to put all that out on the table to validate for you that this is, in fact, the father that you are asking about. And she said, okay, go ahead. So I told her all of that. And thank the universe. All of that was correct.
Congratulations. I know this story is not about you, but I do want to pause to say how remarkable you are.
Oh, well, thank you. And I want to pause and say thank you to the spirit world.
Well, yeah, that's the next one on my list. You blow me away all the time. Not that I don't expect it, but at the same time, I'm still in awe of all of it.
Oh, I'm still in awe of all of it too. Mm-hmm. I feel, what did I tell you this morning? Mm-hmm. And that will come out after. Mm-hmm. But oh my God, Kelly. So I'm just standing there and I said to her, so you weren't raped? And she goes, no, I wasn't. She goes, I loved my brother. And she goes, on earth, because now the two souls are coming forward. On earth, we really loved each other. We weren't in the school system. We were raised at home. And I'm like, what? We weren't allowed to go to school.
Oh, well, that makes sense given generations.
Yeah. And I said, where were you raised? And she goes, we were raised on a farm out in the wilderness. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, so we were kept home. And Dad went out into the field and worked. And he worked with other farmers in the area that all helped each other farm their lands. And from time to time, and at the beginning and at the end of the day, everybody went out and worked and did their stuff. She says, so I did stuff with my mom. I would go and get the eggs and I would feed the chickens. And her and her brother stayed at home all day because they were disabled and they weren't considered that they should be in the school system. And this was a decision made by Mom and Dad because they would be more useful at home.
Can I pause for a moment here? I just want to,
Yeah.
in the interest of being politically correct for current day, these were the terms that would have been used back then. And actually, they're probably, maybe not even there, but they're probably a nicer term considering the generation that her parents actually were. So for anyone who's listening and may be hung up on the term that has since evolved, that's not the point. They are channeling what would have occurred in their world.
Yeah, and thank you. It's wonderful that the two spirits come through to be able to explain as fully evolved souls. This is what my lifetime looked like as her mom and dad. This is how we were raised, and we loved it. We didn't miss going to school. We got life lessons on the farm. We weren't going to and never stepped outside of that environment. I mean, they go into town to get things, but they're never going to go and get jobs. And I know today that can be totally different. But back then, they were not going to be. So Mom and Dad were raising them knowing we're going to have to take care of these two children till either we're dead and siblings have to take care of them or until they die before us.
Also, I just want to say they got the education I wish I had.
Oh, they
Like
got
the lifestyle education that
Yes.
school just doesn't give you.
Yes, and they have all these brothers and sisters that totally understand and value that. Don't make fun of it. Protect these two siblings. Love them. Understand that this
Oh,
is
beautiful.
Yes, it's so beautiful. But this piece becomes their burden. And so this is not a rape, but it is a situation that is something.
Well, it's incest.
Yes. And, oh, pardon me. Yes, technically, yes. I was going to go to the emotional and the social part. You went to the physical part. So thank you for doing that. So when they discover she's pregnant, she's really pregnant. Like,
Oh, like far along.
yes. Okay. And the parents are of a belief system that you don't have an abortion.
Well, especially that far along.
Yeah. So they're just leaving it. And she has the baby and the parents raise them.
The grandparents?
Pardon me. Yes.
Okay.
Her grandparents. So there's difficulty in the community. There's difficulty with people trying to figure out who the father is.
In the community.
Yes.
Where it's none of their business.
That's correct. And Mom and Dad really can't figure out who it is. They don't know.
Okay, may I clarify for my own sake and listeners?
Yeah. No, they suspect, but they don't. They can't prove. They don't know.
When you say mom and dad, you mean of her parents, right? So grandparents can't actually figure out
yes, Kelly.
that their son
Yes.
impregnated their daughter?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, may I also ask another question? Does Aleah's mother actually know or have the ability to know that she, in fact, is the mother? Or is she raised, like, is she told and taught to believe that her mother, the grandma, is Aleah's mom?
Yeah.
So that, no, and I asked that question
Yes.
to illustrate the severity of the mental capabilities.
That's correct.
Okay.
You got it.
Oh, I hope I'm doing an okay job with my wording.
Yes. So, and I understand the confusion. And this is all pulled apart because the grandparents, her mom, her biological father, are all in one family.
Right.
So when I tell her this, she goes, "You're spot on." And I'm like, "What?" And she says, "I've had DNA testing." She says, "So I do know that both my mother and my father are from the same family." She says, "I do know this."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, Kelly." When I went to open my mouth to tell her all of this, I literally, like, you could have put deodorant sticks under my armpits because I was just like, if I'm going to give all this information and she goes, "Well, that can't be true because I got DNA tested and that can't be true." I was so, my adrenal glands.
This is why we're ordering cortisol control from the Martin Clinic so often.
Monthly. Honest to God, there was so much freaking stress.
Y'all need to start sponsoring us.
The Martin Clinic.
I know they listen.
Yeah, they do. They should be sending us free cortisol formula. No, well, not that they should.
No,
It's
no.
not their
I know.
responsibility. But so okay, that's just joke aside, of course.
Yeah.
I was so relieved. I can't even describe how I felt when she said to me that she was able to validate that both biological parents were in the family, and she just wanted to know if it was her grandfather.
Oh.
So she said, "I have certain family members that are accusing my grandfather of raping his daughter."
Oh.
And I said, "No." I said, "He did not. And this is within the family." And I said, "That is incorrect." And she said, "I am so relieved." And I said, "No," I said, "it's this uncle with the same disabilities as his sister. And that it's not, in fact, rape. It's that they actually just really love each other and they've spent their life together. And this happened." And she doesn't ask if it happens repetitively. She doesn't ask if there's a whole relationship there based on this, on sex. She doesn't ask all of that. She just wants to know the answer. And so her mom comes through with her brother and says, "We are your parents and we love you. We love you. We don't care what the community or what other humans think. We loved each other and we loved you. And we think that is what counts. And that this affects who you think you are. And we are not ashamed. We are not devastated by this like the other humans could be because we weren't capable of knowing any differently or any better. So we do not feel shame. And we do not want to bring or let anybody else's shame taint your life."
I was getting ready for the show this morning, and I was taking a Q-tip to my under eye, and I heard "don't bother." And I thought, oh, fuck, it's going to be a tearjerker today.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. Now I'm just going to not care what people think or say. This is such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And I want to address Aleah. Like, I don't even know if she's a listener, but what a brave and beautiful thing to harness the message that you just said and carry on with her life, not absorbing other people's shame, just simply knowing that she was loved or is loved.
That is the whole point. As far as her mom and her dad are concerned, that is their whole message to her, that they feel is exactly not just what she needs to hear, but is the truth. And that because of their mental state on earth, this is what happened. It might not happen to other people that weren't in the same mental state, but it did for them. And that their intention and everything, this is how this played out. This is the truth.
Proud of you.
Thank you. That was,
Yeah.
I'm going to call that a shitstorm.
Yeah.
And
They should label a deodorant that. That's a good name for a deodorant. Someone hit me up for copyright.
Did you want to call your deodorant a shitstorm or for the shitstorm?
Yeah. It's so great.
Isn't it? Yeah. Or just shitstorm.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thrilled with that. Mm-hmm. And so the other uncles, just to finish this story, the other uncles come forward and all I can feel is their energy. And the energy is, if I can describe this the best way that I can, it is a strength. It is a standing behind these two people. It is a lack of judgment. It is a lack of, we want to hide it. Now, when I asked the uncles what happened on Earth, they said that nobody ever got an answer from her mom as to who was the parent, because she would point out different people and she would point out 50 different people. She'd go, him, her. And everybody would be like, oh, we get it.
She doesn't understand.
She doesn't understand. So she would point out a man and everybody would be like, oh, him. And then they would be ready to attack him. And then she would go, and him.
Right.
And then they'd go, well, wait a minute, which one? And him.
Yeah.
And then she'd go, and her, and her. And it was like, oh, yeah, we're not going to get an answer. Mm-hmm. So then they realized that they couldn't get an answer to this. So the family realized, well, we're not going to get an answer because she's not capable. Mm-hmm. So let's move on and raise this child. And let's take care of both of them because this happened.
Mm-hmm. I just think the horror of how the family lived with this, thinking that it was not consensual, thinking or assuming that it mustn't have been, then to consider she's always at home, she's always under supervision. Who could it have been? Like how easy it would be to point fingers to the people who had one window of opportunity to be alone with her, not understanding the love part.
Yeah. Like, I think that's awesome because...
And the safety part, too. And I address the safety issue because it sounds as though, like, if she truly felt safe with her brother and this was really just loving and kind to each other, like, my heart breaks for the actual grandparents of Aleah, who would have assumed all of these things.
Oh, yes, and all the different kinds of rumination that you would go through thinking, is it the guy that dropped off the milk? Is it the guy that brings the wood pile?
And is my husband lying to me?
All of
and
it.
I'm never going to find out.
Yep, and they had to come to that conclusion that they were not going to find out, and that the point then that they got to the acceptance of this is what this is, and we have a baby coming. And so this is a human being. So we are going to raise this human being and we are going to raise our daughter. We're going to take care of her. And this is where they all move to this space. But decades later, there are these questions around who. And now she wants to know as an adult.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I know you know this, and maybe our listeners, if they've listened to a few shows or more, know this, but it's never ending. The different types of questions that we are asked, and even though I've been asked that question many times before, the different kinds of answers that can come forward, and why you and I can't go into any form of making assumptions. Because if we assume, we can waste the whole half hour saying, well, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And the spirit guides have to go, no, no, no.
The client asked a good question. You fucked up and asked 10 bad ones.
Yes. Or the client sometimes doesn't ask the right question and they may not realize it, or they may be doing it to test, or they may be doing it to say, well, I think I know, so I'm just going to see what you get and test you.
Or they're given the wrong information and ask a question based off of that.
Yes. There are a number of reasons that it can be the wrong question from the client or from us. Okay, so that was that session. Kelly, I know that you get this, but I can never explain to people how deeply my soul dances when I say that I dance with the dead people in the kitchen. And this might be one of those instances where people might listen to this story and go, I think I get it.
Yeah, when you have described the way you dance or the reasons that you dance with the other side, I have sometimes had to equate it to the way that I slump with relief.
Oh, yeah.
Relief, not anything else, where it's just like, because you can breathe, it's the exhale that you've been waiting to take. That's how I felt the depth of what you meant. In my own way, to draw a parallel. So if that helps other people, maybe even, you catch yourself listening to these stories like the one we just discussed, where you're holding your breath, and as soon as you mentioned this was consensual, it's like, oh, okay. Now, I know exactly what you're going to be talking about, so continue.
So this morning, I woke up in such a light mood. And I turned and grabbed my phone. I was still laying in bed. And I grabbed the phone.
Because we're all addicted.
And, but I put my phone beside me because we get, rarely, but we do get emergency phone calls for missing people and stuff.
We also text each other first thing in the morning. I will be there for coffee. I will not be there for coffee.
Sleeping till 6:30. Sleeping till 6:45. Anyway, so I looked over at the phone and I had an email from a client, and I had seen her a couple of weeks ago. So I thought, I wonder why. And she's a regular, so I don't want everybody to think that I remember every client. I don't. She's just a regular client. And I knew that I had just seen her within the last couple of weeks. But I didn't remember why. I just thought, I wonder if something's up. Because anyway, so I opened up her email as I was laying there, just taking my time. And she said an update. And she said, I saw you a couple of weeks ago. And her email just read quickly, you told me that I had been misdiagnosed by my physician with lupus. You told me that what you got was in my digestive system and that they would find the root cause in the digestive system. Update. She said she'd gone to another physician and had asked to be checked for a diagnosis for something, and that the physician said she had been misdiagnosed with lupus, and that this physician had ordered all tests to do with digestion.
Based off of the information in your session?
Well, he didn't know that.
Oh, but okay, so she sought him based off of.
She went out and asked for a second opinion because she had seen her physician was diagnosed with lupus, called me and said, what do you get about my medical? And I said, there's been a misdiagnosis. And she went, I was just diagnosed. And I said, it is not. And I think I had said something to her around, it's not lupus or MS. And she went, I was diagnosed with lupus. And I went, it's not. It's been a misdiagnosis. And it will be found in the digestive system. That's where they have to look. And that's all that was offered in that session. I didn't get another diagnosis. I just got told where she needed to search. So she booked another appointment for another opinion. And sure enough, got her affirmations. It's misdiagnosed. And now they are beginning a whole series of tests in digestion. So I'm happy dancing, as you know, when you came over this morning. I happily told you over coffee. And how happy I am that the spirit guides are so accurate. I know that sounds silly because of course they are.
Well, but I mean, maybe it sounds silly to us at this point, 310 episodes in, but not to a first-time listener.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Okay, I get that. But I am so grateful. Like, as much as she's thanking me, I turned around and I laid in bed and I just said to the guides, oh, thank you. Like, because really, I got nothing. You and I have nothing. If
Literally, no medical background. Nothing.
Zip. It is 100% on the spirit guides to tell us whatever it is they choose to tell us. And I do realize some clients then would say, well, why didn't you diagnose her? Because the spirit guides did not.
And also, we can say, if the guides say, hey, it's this, we can say it, but it's not technically a diagnosis.
That's right.
We don't claim any of those things.
That's correct. Nothing. That has to come from the proper professionals. Just like if we're told about mental health issues, but the person still needs to be diagnosed and treated by the proper professionals. That is how we live. So anyway, I just wanted to give that update today, and I'm all done.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, lots of reasons to happy dance.
I do want to say, too, and maybe this is the place and maybe it's not, but it's our show and I'm going to do it. The people that have called for Medical Intuitive and said, you can thank Dee Dee that I'm a client because I listened to that show and I picked up the phone and I called you.
Yeah, I was just saying it to you was it yesterday or the day before that a lady called and booked an appointment because she listened to Dee Dee's show.
And if you guys are confused hearing this, it's episode 303.
We're never going to forget.
Never, ever.
303.
Nor 262, but yes.
I tend not to forget the shows where we have somebody like a Dee Dee, which is rare, or where we have the Patricia Evans, the Susan Forwards, the Beverly Angels.
117.
Yes.
Yeah. There's certain numbers that stick out, as I'm sure there are for listeners who have, hit repeat on some of those shows.
Well, these are our sheroes.
Yeah. And you know what? I have a real issue with adding she to everything.
Then let's do something different.
And I know it's a trend, and some people will say, no, it's fantastic, and they love it. Someone said to me in the best of intentions the other day, don't forget, you're a CEO. And I thought, fuck that. Why is CEO synonymous with he's? Oh. And you have to specify that someone's a she. This is how mad I am. You have to specify that someone is a CEO.
Okay, I never heard of that.
I prefer to just have the fucking acronym.
Okay, then
they're some of our heroes.
These are our heroes. The Patricia Evans, the Beverly Angels, and the Dee Dees. And all of these people...
And yes, Dee Dee, we did just call you a hero.
We did. She's on our list. And I look forward to adding more people to that list.
I had a lot of fun getting riled up with you today.
Okay. It's always fun getting riled up with you.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everyone. Have a wonderful day. If you have questions or comments about today's show, you can email us at info@bysarlo.com. No matter where you've tuned in from, thank you for joining us. Please make sure to subscribe and join us next Saturday for a brand new show.